Good morning, everyone. So today's class is about the fine needle aspiration cytology. Um so we will be dealing with the normal histology and the normal cells that we see on fine needle aspiration cytology, and we will be dealing with the structure of the lymph node, breast tissue, thyroid, and some of the soft tissue glands or soft tissue tumors. So before I start with the individual gland or a tissue, I think I need to speak a little about the fine needle aspiration cytology. So it was described in 1930, first time in the USA, and later in 1950. So it is most commonly used diagnostic procedure for the palpable mass lesions. So these mass lesions can be anywhere in the body, maybe it is thyroid or superficial soft tissues or the breast mass or any other masses like testicles or the prostate. And most of the times we don't usually get into the deep internal organs because of the risk of injuring to the major vessels. So we do need a special clinical skill to manage these FNACs because there's a special technique involved, and you have to get the adequate material on the slide for the proper diagnosis and treatment. So for that, we have a certain procedure which I'll be talking a little later, but you should also have a good knowledge of the normal cellular elements. So one of the important criteria for doing an FNAC is what does a clinician expects us to tell us that what is happening in that soft tissue swelling. So the first one is we have to tell whether this is a benign or a malignant lesion, whether this is a cystic lesion or this is a solid tumor. So these are the common indications that we required for reporting the fine needle aspiration cytology. So let's see what are the advantages. There is no anesthesia and there is no hospitalization required. It is just on outpatient procedure, easy to perform, economical, not very costly, and multiple attempts can be made if you don't have an adequate material on the slide, and if there's a clinically trained person, obviously the material will be good, cost effective, and definitely it gives a diagnosis on the basis of which a definite surgery can be planned. So complications can be, if it is a deeper lesion, obviously in the lung, you can have an obstructive lesions or a pulmonary hypertension, and that is only in the very deeper or conditions, or you might have a bleeding or a septicemia in case of the superficial lesions. So let's talk about the procedure of the fine needle aspiration cytology. The first one is you should be able to palpate the lesion. Now the palpation means you should be able to see where is the muscle, where is the soft tissue below it, where is the bone, and you should be able to hold it between the first two fingers of your hand. So after the palpation and holding, you have to put the needle inside the swelling, and with the help of the syringe or sometimes with the syringe holder you can aspirate as much as material as you want, and most probably 0.5 to 1 ml is quite adequate. With that material you smear it on a slide and then fix it. After fixation you can put the slide for staining, and stains, there are two different types of stains, which one of them is a Papanicolaou stain, and then we have the Giemsa staining, which I'll be talking about it a little later. So the next slide actually tells you that when you put the needle inside the lesion, you have to create a negative pressure. Negative pressure by aspirating the material inside the syringe. So when you create the negative pressure, the fluid from the inside or the tissue from the inside will get aspirated in the needle. So when this is done, it is smeared on the slide after that, and after the smearing it is fixed. So this is the next slide, which is showing that how the palpation is so important, because if you go to the not inside the center of the lesion, you might miss the lesion. Okay, the top one is showing about the cystic lesion and the lower one is talking about some solid tumor. So when you do the make the smear, you have to properly talk about the date and the pathologist and the clinical diagnosis, which is very, very important, and the labeling, which is very, very important, the same labeling on the form and on the slide to prevent the mixing of the slides. So what are the other stains which are used? The main stains are Papanicolo, which is very clearly seen. It shows a blue and the black color. It is very good cytoplasmic stain. Now the next one is the MGG. Now this gives a very beautiful morphology on the smear. So this is also very commonly used for the nuclear staining. Now let's see the indications of the FNACs. First of all, you have to diagnose whether this is a simple cyst. Secondly, if there is any metastasis to the lymph nodes, or if there is any suspected cancer, or if there is a mammography, there is a lesion like a fibroadenoma, you want to confirm it by FNAC, you do it, and then if you are able to diagnose any tumor cells for special diagnosis. All right, so let's talk about the breast lesion. Below this, you can see a very good a slide in which you can see that all the cells, all the duct and the acini of the breast tissue, they are lined by two types of cells. One is the epithelial cells, and then which is the inside, and then outside we have the myoepithelial cells. So on a slide, on a smear, on an FNAC, you will be able to see two types of cells. One is the epithelial cells and the second one is the myoepithelial cells. Now these myoepithelial cells, as we go upper, it gets converted into basal cells. All right. So usually on the FNACs, we should be able to talk about whether the lesions is benign or malignant. So in the benign, we have fibroadenoma, lactating adenoma, and then in the malignant, we have to say whether this is a ductal carcinoma or a lobular carcinoma or a medullary or epicrine or mucinous carcinoma. So we have to first of all differentiate between the benign and the malignant. Then you can also say whether this is a cystic lesion if you see just cyst macrophages and some inflammatory cells, or also sometimes you can see a lot of giant cells in which you can see which can be a part of fat necrosis or some other inflammatory lesions like sarcoidosis. And tuberculosis is supposed to be really not very common in breast tissue, but although a few cases has been reported, so it's almost amazing the type of lesions that you can see inside the various organs. So on a slide, this is the reporting criteria which you have to say it's a normal or it's inflammatory, benign, suspicious for malignancy, atypical, malignant, or unsatisfactory. So normally you should be able to see epithelial cells and the myoepithelial cells. Okay, so this is the first slide of a benign breast lesion. You can see the lobules of the ductal tissue has come out and they are showing a high cellularity. Okay, and there are a lot of bare nuclei in the background. You can see some single scattered nuclei in the background. Those are the myoepithelial cells, and the one which is labeled as staghorn clusters are the epithelial cells. All right, so on the left side of the slide you can also see some fibroepithelial component, fibromyxoid component, which is again a part of the myoepithelial component. Now the next one is this is a slide in which you can see the cells are typically large in size, you can see, and they're singly scattered. They are not like in tight clusters as you see in fibroadenoma. In this they are singly scattered away from each other, and the cell size is large with a high NC ratio, dense chromatin, and scanty cytoplasm. So these are the features which fit into an infiltrating ductal carcinoma in this case. The next slide is an epicrine carcinoma. You can see some epicrine change in the normal fibrocystic diseases, but you can also see some epicrine carcinoma. This slide I have put it just to show the high NC ratio and the prominent nucleoli in few of the cells with moderate amount of cytoplasm. So basically in the breast you have to talk about the cystic lesions, you have to talk about the benign lesions, and then you have to talk about the malignant lesions. Let's go to the lymph node. So what is lymphadenopathy? The lymphadenopathy refers to the lymph nodes which says that the lymph nodes are enlarged, increase in the number of the lymph nodes, and how is the consistency, whether this is soft or whether this is hard. Okay, so we say generalized lymphadenopathy when more than two lymph nodes are enlarged. Regional lymphadenopathy if the enlargement is single or multiple. All right. So lymphadenopathy is usually an incidental finding in majority of the cases, because sometimes if the patient has a carcinoma in the lung or in any soft tissue, it will get metastasized to the lymph node, and patient will come back only with an enlarged lymph node. This happens very commonly in the cancers of the mouth, oral cavity, larynx, thyroid, especially the papillary carcinoma. They will have a lymphadenopathy on the left side of the neck, and sometimes in carcinoma of the stomach, you will get a verrucous nodule in which the carcinoma of the stomach has metastasized to the lymph node. So the lymph nodes most commonly present as a small lymph nodes which if not properly treated or diagnosed, they gradually enlarge in size. So these are the single lymph nodes, and sometimes if you see multiple lymph nodes in the inguinal or the axillary or the cervical areas, what do you usually think it's we are dealing with the lymphomas. All right, and sometimes patients with tuberculosis also present with the lymphadenopathy. Okay, so what do you see normally in a lymph node? You have a capsule, and you have a hilum, then you have a cortex and medulla, and cortex will show the lymphoid follicles, will have the B cells surrounded by T cells, and medulla will have a mixture of different types of T cells. So what are the common causes of lymphadenopathy? I think we have discussed. There can be infections, there can be lymphomas, and there can be some metabolic causes, and also some sort of metastasis, which can be read deeply in these slides. So let's go to the pictures. I always like to discuss the pictures because that is the one which give you the maximum information about what is happening to the patient. So remember that in an FNAC, it's always the clinical correlation which helps actually in the proper diagnosis. Now let's have a look at the first slide. You can see there is the background, it is little hazy, and it is showing areas of necrosis, and you can see the singly scattered lymph nodes which are scattered here and there, some in clusters, some are single. But on the left upper side, you can see a big large granuloma which is composed of epithelioid cells. Now you know what I'm talking about, granulomas and epithelioid cells. I'm talking about tuberculosis. So epithelioid cells are nothing but a slipper shaped cells which are seen in tuberculosis, and which is very common in the lymph nodes in TB patients. So what do you do next? You ask for a tuberculin test. Okay, you take a chest x-ray and you ask about the family history. Anybody in the family is infected, or you are infected before? Are you on any treatment? And then refer the patient to ITC. All right, so the next slide, we have you can see the cells. They are first of all round to avoid, and they are not slightly, but they are 2 to 3 times larger than the lymphocytes that you have seen in the upper slide. Correct? Now when you see that the cells are large, singly scattered, they are not in clusters, and they are separated from each other, they show a high NC ratio, scanty cytoplasm. So when you see these large cells, you think about a lymphoma, a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Since you are not able to see an RS cells, you don't call it as a Hodgkin's, you call it as a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And then the third slide, as you can see, there are lymphocytes in the background, but they're smaller than the lymphocytes as seen in the second slide, but they do seem like reactive. Okay, but in the center you see large cells which are around 4 to 5 times the size of the lymphocytes, and they have a high NC ratio, prominent nucleoli I can see, and there's a moderate amount of cytoplasm. So these are definitely metastatic epithelial cells in a lymph node aspirate. Okay, so in this lymph node, what you have seen is a tuberculosis, metastatic, and a lymphoma. Okay, so these are the most common lesions that you see on a FNAC of the lymph node. Now let's run to the FNAC of a salivary gland. Now salivary gland also, you see the ducts, acini, and the myoepithelial cells. So the first figure, you can see there's an aspirate, and it is showing some grape-like clusters composed of acini and ducts. Okay, so this is a MGG stain. Now the second slide, in this also, in salivary gland FNAC also, you should be able to say this is benign or malignant. In the benign, the most common lesion is a pleomorphic adenoma, and in the malignant we have lots of malignancies. WHO has given basal cell carcinoma, adenoid cystic carcinoma, myoepithelial carcinoma, and then we have this one, mucoepidermoid carcinomas. So in the benign category, in this picture, you can see there are, you have to see two, pleo means many populations. So you should be able to see ductal cells, you should be able to see acinar cells, you should be able to see myoepithelial cells. Now you can see in the first picture, the acinar cells, they're all clustered together, okay, and they're seen in clusters and acini. And in the background you see a big plumpy myoepithelial cells. Now these myoepithelial cells can be in the form of plasmacytoid cells, they can be in the form of spindeloid cells. So in this picture you can see they are seen in both the conditions. So connective tissue also can be seen as a part of the myoepithelial component. So this was pleomorphic adenoma. Then you can also see basal cell adenoma, which is also benign category. You can see myoepithelial cell adenoma, which can also be seen. Now the next picture is about, you can clearly see it's a malignant tumor, you just compare it with the first picture. This is definitely showing an angry looking cells, all, not very much in tight clusters, but they are about to, discohesive clusters, you can say, with a high NC ratio, dark hyperchromatic nucleus, and, if on higher power, you will be able to see prominent nuclei as well. And they're looking like squamoid cells on the left upper side. Okay, so on the right lower side you can see the cells, they are showing keratinization. So this is we are dealing with the mucoepidermoid carcinoma. So when you see the squamoid cells, you have to either think of salivary duct carcinoma, or you have to think about the mucoepidermoid carcinoma. Now the mucoepidermoid carcinoma has three types of cells. One is squamoid cells, one is the clear cells, and one is the intermediate cells. Okay, so this is a picture which is diagnostic of a high grade mucoepidermoid carcinomas. Now the next one is the acinic cell carcinoma. You can see the acinic cell carcinoma will actually look like a benign salivary gland tissue, but it will present itself in the acinar form, high cellularity, nucleopleomorphism will be there, and few of them will be showing some sort of prominent nucleoli, but the cytoplasm will be very foamy and granular, so which gives us a clue based on the clinical history and the swelling, how long it has been. So this can be diagnosed on a fine needle aspiration cytology. Now the next one is is an adenoid cystic carcinoma. You can see a very classical in the lower right side. You can see there is a basaloid material inside the center, and the epithelial cells, the ductal cells, are surrounding that. So that is very characteristic of the adenoid cystic carcinoma. So in this case, the basal cell adenoma is a closed DD, but this is a classical slide of adenoid cystic carcinoma. So let's see, let's have a look at some of the soft tissue tumors. Most commonly soft tissue tumors which we see in the clinical practices, lipomas and neural tumors. So I thought let me put the picture for some benign soft tissue tumors. So the first one, you can see there are large fat vacuoles. They are separated by fibromyxoid background, or you can say some fibrin or fibrous material which is separating the fat vacuoles. So this is a very commonly seen in middle-aged people. So this is a diagnosis of a lipoma. The next one is an aspirate which shows spindeloid cells. Okay, so after the spindeloid cells, you can see they are arranged in clusters, and plus they have some myxoid background in them. So because of this presentation, spindeloid cells which is looking like a wavy nuclei, so this is a diagnosis of a neural tumor, and schwannoma is the most common. So Anton A and Anton B areas are most commonly seen on histopathology, which is difficult to appreciate on FNAC. So we usually call it as a benign spindle cell lesion, diagnostic of a schwannoma. So this is the another one slide, important soft tissue tumor which is known as a melanoma, but it is can happen in anywhere and in the inside deeper organs. So we call that as a clear cell sarcoma in those organs. So in a melanoma, what you're supposed to see, it's most common skin tissue tumor. So what do you see? You see the binucleate to multinucleate cells, okay, with a prominent eosinophilic nucleoli and moderate amount of cytoplasm and a melanin pigment at places. So this is a very characteristic picture of a malignant melanoma. So what I can say is FNAC is very important in differentiating between the benign and the malignant lesion. So the proper treatment can be planned accordingly. Now, the way of diagnosing FNAC slides is by the architectural pattern, the appearance of the cells, how they are spindloid, round, ovoid, or plasmacytoid, and then how is the nucleus and how is the nucleoli, whether this is eosinophilic present or not, and how is the cytoplasm. So this is how you differentiate between the cells on a fine needle aspiration cytology. And most of the time, sometimes you're dealing with the cystic lesions in the throat. You can see a mucocele sometimes in the salivary gland, and sometimes you can see a simple cyst in the thyroid also, and sometimes you see a nodular hyperplasia of the thyroid. So what do you see? Just some sort of acinar cells, or you can say follicular epithelial cells arranged in clusters, so in a benign background, so we call it as a nodular hyperplasia. And in the case of malignancy, especially in the papillary malignancies of the thyroid, you will be able to see a papillary fragments, which is most commonly seen as a lymph node metastasis. Okay, so follicular neoplasm is another one category which you can see in a thyroid, and these patients, when diagnosed, has to be lobectomy has to be done, and the consecutive follow-up with the chemotherapy or radioactive iodine is important in these cases. So fine needle aspiration cytology definitely has an important part to play in the diagnosis and the treatment of the patient. I hope you enjoyed the talk. It's like a radio jockey here. I do not know whether you have picked up the subject or not, but I am open and I'm ready to take up any questions if you have. All right. Thank you so much. This was Dr. Amrit, Professor of Pathology, and wish you all the best. Thank you.